Hey everybody, we're doing a hybrid picking lesson today. We're not talking about picking your nose like this. No, dude, that's gross. We're talking about playing the guitar with a pick and your fingers. So let's get into it. Okay, so there is a free tab sheet with today's lesson. All you gotta do is email me, John, at shredpro411@gmail.com. So before we get into the hybrid picking examples, I want to do a little bit of house cleaning and give you guys 2 tips to think about before you start practicing. The first is you gotta get an appropriate practice tone. Like this. Pretty, but no. How about this one, dude? No. How about this? Very cool, but no. So what I'm getting at is you gotta have a dry or fairly dry tone when you're practicing this or any new technique, so you're not distracted by crazy tones and crazy sounds, so you can really get down to the nuts and bolts and make sure that your mechanics and your technique is on point. So the second tip I'd like to tell you, if you are getting into hybrid picking and you think it might be cool to fully integrate it into your guitar technique, I would strongly recommend you think about growing out your 3 fingernails. Really gives added tone and an added attack to help you keep up with your pick. Because one of the things you'll find is trying to balance the picking attack between your fingers and your pick. Having your nails a little longer definitely helps. Alright, so let's get into the examples. So the first section I'd like to talk with you about today is individual finger picking, right? So it's important when you're first starting this technique to assign each picking member a specific string to work with, so you have a uniform picking technique. So one of the first ones I remember starting with was just going down the line, pick, second, third, fourth fingers, like this. So when you're first starting this, strive for clarity of sound and clarity of attack, and a balanced attack between your pick and your fingers. So straight from the sheet, here are some examples you can practice. So just going down the line, pick, 2, 3, 4. You can switch string sets. You can skip a string, still going down the line. Pick, second, third, fourth, but I'm skipping the string in the middle, in this case the A string. Or something I like to do is keep picking on the low E string and move the other fingers. And you can do both of those examples in reverse. So you're starting with the pinky. So here's pinky, third, second, pick. And the second example, reverse. So I'm starting with the pinky on the B string. The next example varies the picking order. So it's pick, third, second, fourth. This is a nice kind of classical sounding one. And you can do the reverse of that where you start with your pinky and there's a bunch more patterns like this. You can come up with your own as you see fit with whatever style of music you like to play, but these are a couple that I remember practicing when I initially started. So the sooner you can integrate this technique or any technique with metronome practice or a drum loop, some kind of time frame reference, the better. So once you kind of acquainted yourself with the basic technique, it's time to do it with the click, baby. So I got a little drum track going at 100 beats per minute, and we're just going to take it nice and easy with quarter notes, and I'll run through some of these individual picking examples. 1, 2, buckle your shoe. etc. So at the end, I was kind of just drilling along with my pinky. I remember doing that a lot when I first started because, like you out there probably, my pinky was really weak. But I knew you could do it, big guy, and look at you now. So it's good to give him or her a little bit of added attention. So the next thing I'd like to talk to you about is hitting multiple strings at the same time with the hybrid picking technique. And this is something I really like about the technique because you can get more of a piano type attack. On a piano, you know, they're playing the chord all fingers at the same time, I mean mostly. And when you play with a pick, you really can't get that sound, and it's a small difference. But the more tools you got in your toolbox, the more things you can work on, baby. So let's get into it. This is right from the sheet. So we'll first talk about breaking it down to 3 notes at a time, but if you want to start with 2 notes at a time, that's fine too. So once again, I'm grabbing my good old A bar chord here on the 6th string, and what we're doing here is we're shifting the whole picking apparatus, if you will, to get the 3 strings at a time. So here's what I mean. So if we're using 3 strings, I'm using my pick, my 2nd, and my 3rd finger. So if we start with the highest string group, you know, up here in the low E, we're switching the whole thing down so the pick's on the A. Etc. If you want to take baby steps, no problem. You just start with the 2 string grouping and you're just doing it with your pick and your 2nd finger. So if you do a 4 string grouping, you're just doing the same thing, you're just adding the good old pink. So this is a really easy way to spice up voicings that you're already using. If you're using a 4 string grouping, like maybe the C major 7, that's already like a bunch more sounds you can get than just by depending on what you think is cool, depending on your taste. So the reason I first started getting into hybrid picking was because way back when I went to Berkeley College of Cosmetology, they'd be showing us these broken chords for use in like walking bass and chord melody type stuff. Ones like this one, where you're skipping a string. And I remember practicing it, and I just didn't like the way that felt. It just was weird to me. I'm kind of OCD. So I heard Eric Johnson say something similar where for chord voicings where you're skipping a string, he likes to use the hybrid picking to get more of a piano type attack. So an example like this was kind of why I first started getting into hybrid picking. So I'm kind of picking and choosing which string I'm skipping, and for me it sounds a little bit better, a little bit different to my ear than by using a pick, the alternative. Sometimes that kind of pluck is kind of nice, but then you got to worry about what string is being muted, and for me I just kind of like the piano attack a little bit better. Okay, so like we did in the first example with the individual picking, the sooner you can start to integrate these different approaches with a drum track or click or some kind of time marking, the better. So once again, I got my trusty drummer over here, Curtis, at 100 beats per minute, and let's just go through some of these examples of picking multiple strings at the same time. 1, 2, buckle your shoe. Okay, so the next section of hybrid picking I want to talk to you about is integrating the hybrid picking with some kind of legato stuff. I'm talking about taking some shape. I'm kind of here thinking A major. And feel I can get a really smooth attack, and I don't have to think about it that much when I use this hybrid picking technique. So what kind of got me going on this is I kind of like this move here with the A minor, open A minor chord. So it got me thinking, what else can I kind of do with that? Kind of have like some kind of chord going on and kind of be doing hammer-ons and pull-offs within that chord. So there's probably a billion ways you can play things like this. Here are a couple more little examples. A major. And then A major, first inversion. Here's a few more of my favorites like this in A major. So you can kind of downscale this sort of legato type example into smaller string groupings. Like if I do a 3-string grouping, then I'm able to move more freely around the neck. It's like this. This is an A major, and I'm kind of basing this around this A bar chord. So I'm using a uniform picking here, and the legato is always on the 3rd string. So I'm picking with my pick, 2nd finger, 3rd finger, legato. Minor's fun too. And then I'm just kind of picking on the top where the legato note is, I'm picking some acceptable tension you can add in there depending on what chord and mode you're thinking about. And if you kind of do a similar thing with 4 notes per string, one of the things I like to do is kind of do this kind of rake type action. So if we're in B minor now, kind of going through some inversions. So I'm always using pick, 2nd finger, 3rd, 4th finger, and the legato is always on the highest string, whatever that happens to be. And once again, the sooner you can start integrating this kind of stuff with a click, the sooner you can start using it in real-world music situations. So that was my hybrid picking lesson. What did you guys think? Did you guys learn anything? Do you want me to do a more in-depth lesson with different things you can do with it? I'd be happy to. It's definitely one of my favorite techniques, and I think any guitarist could benefit from incorporating some of the things you can get from hybrid picking into their playing. So don't forget to hit me up for the free tab sheet. All you gotta do is email me, John, at shredpro411@gmail.com, and I'll see you down that dusty trail.